Today we were talking with Ryan W. Powers, who we posted the Substack of the other day, where he was talking about leaving his law firm, David Polk. David Polk, who has been in headlines lately for bending to Trump, going so far as representing President Trump in his recent launch, I guess I would call it, of more crypto coins, the value of which remains to be seen. So, Ryan, thanks for being here, man. What made you want to be a lawyer? Seems like a tough gig these days.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it and excited to be here. I initially went into law because I thought it would be my way to make a difference. I'm a high school dropout. This means a great deal to me. I spent a long time trying to look at the things that contributed to my story and the ways in which I thought the system failed me. And I thought, how can I go into something that I could maybe fix things and make it better for the next person? Chose law, went through the system, did everything right that I could, and ended up fired.
That's how it goes, man. It's such a like relatable story, and it's unfortunate that it happened to you too, but it's this constant thing that when you get into this industry that you really wanted to be a part of, you have the best heart about it, you're trying to do the right thing, and then somebody in the inner circle is like, "It's not how we do things here, man." So what happened to you? You wanted to start writing, I believe it was, right?
That's right. Yeah. So really things start in March when the Trump administration began issuing a series of executive orders targeting the legal profession.
Mm.
So the administration was revoking security clearances. It was going after big law firms by name. My firm was not one of them, but I'll explain how that connects. And fundamentally, there were a lot of lawyers who were figuring out what do we do when the grip of the Trump administration is trying to control and coerce lawyers, particularly at the highest level. So I started writing. I thought if there's something that I can do, it's to educate people about the law. So I was writing op-eds on a variety of topics. That includes a Montana bill that was recently passed. I wrote it and I shopped it to a paper in Montana so that Montanans could understand their rights and what was happening and the effects of the bill. I did the same thing with the recent Supreme Court election in the state of Wisconsin.
Mm.
I did with the upcoming Senate race in the state of Texas, not to inject my opinions, but to let people know what was going on, what they could do so that they could make their own informed choices about decisions in their lives and how the law affected them. So I did that for about 2 months or so. In May, I wrote an article about Palantir, which is sort of
Ah,
the
that's gonna
yeah,
get you, Ryan. That's gonna get you. That's
yeah.
his favorite, right?
It certainly did get me because when I
Mm.
wrote the article all about how the federal administration could partner with this organization Palantir to mine basically individuals' personal data and use it however they want without any kind of oversight or any kind of ability for individuals to figure out how their data was being used. I thought there was a big problem with that. So I highlighted it. About 2 weeks later, the New York Times broke the story that, in fact, there was a deal going on between the Trump administration and Palantir, the details of which were not really known to the public. My law firm and I had a meeting about a week or so after that, where I was instructed that I should stop writing. I was confused about that. I was concerned about that because I was given no rationale or explanation about anything that I had written and what had risen sort of a red flag. I thought I was doing something good. I thought it was something that people could really benefit from. So I kept writing and I refused to stop. And the very next day, I got called in and terminated. Went back to my office, cleaned out my stuff in a couple of minutes, and two security guards walked me out of the building.
So dangerous, the writers. That's why we have these spaces, right? And the thing with Palantir that they are sort of like an open secret at this point. I mean, it's Peter Thiel's organization, one of many, and they are like specialized in surveillance. They did a partnership down in New Orleans, actually set up by Democrat James Carville. So it's not like a partisan thing, the surveillance stuff with Palantir. And they partner with the police department there to be able to use facial recognition software to just sort of like survey people, right? So they could like tap into closed circuit television and just run a bunch of different faces through it and then harass people that might look a little like somebody who's a criminal, but weren't. And then at the higher level, the national level, what I was reading you wrote was about how they could be scanning the faces of protesters, people who are in dissent of the administration, for example. Can you talk a little bit more about that capability?
Yeah, so there are certain organizations like Palantir that have the resourcing to essentially partner with state and local governments in order to access security footage from all across like city and state infrastructure. So what that means functionally is, let's say there's a protest going on in the city of Philadelphia, and there are normal security cameras on the street just for, I don't know, regular
They're
reasons,
there. Yeah.
right? Yeah, they're there. And they're outside of government buildings, they're outside of private companies, they're all over the city. It's a very normal thing. The federal government has the capability and potential to basically conduct sort of an audit and
Mhm.
partner with these individual cities or individual state infrastructures to collect that data and then use it in ways that are completely unregulated. And I think that's a problem because, again, individuals don't know if their faces have been scanned. They don't know where that data is going. They have no ability to say, no, I don't want this collected. And if you're protesting the federal government and the federal government has the power to identify you and then file you somewhere, profile you, use that however they want to, you could see how there's a chilling effect for free speech.
Absolutely. It always freaks me out now when you go to the airport. It used to be, do you want to have your picture scanned or not? And now it's like, give me your ID and stand here. And we're going to take your picture before we let you through, even into federal airspaces, which is like, it just the lack of ability to consent to having yourself like cataloged by the government is deeply concerning.
Yeah, and it's not a partisan issue like you said before,
It's an
right?
everybody issue. Hmm.
Yeah, it's something that I think Democrats should be concerned about. It's something I think Republicans, independents, even folks who are unaffiliated, if you care about your data and you care about your privacy, this is an issue that affects you. And I think it should be something you care about because again, for me personally, I'm not someone who's overly concerned with these issues, but if there's something going on with my face or my identity, my date of birth, my social security number, I want to know where that information is only for my own protection.
Yeah, of course. Now, in the broader sense, what's going on with big law in the new administration is deeply concerning because they're doing things like you were saying you get to pick pro bono causes that you want to lend your expertise to. And that's just been the history and tradition of law. All the big law firms and all the good lawyers tend to help people out a little bit when they can as part of their service to the law. And now the Trump administration is pulling people from being able to make decisions about what pro bono cases they want to do and forcing them to use those powers for pro Trump efforts. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It's a real shame what's going on. I'm glad you mention it because I think this is also something that affects everyone and people just don't know enough about it. But essentially, the Trump administration's executive orders that were targeting big law firms meant that big law firms wanted to be okay and they wanted to not face consequence from them.
Mhm.
So as a result, they ended up partnering with the Trump administration. Very, very many of the most powerful, wealthy, well-connected law firms in the world in order to form deals with the president to contribute free legal services to whatever his administration wanted.
Mm.
And what the problem is, these organizations, again, not only are they very rich or they very powerful, but they have so much influence and have historically been committed to causes like representing single parents in
Yeah.
family court. They've been committed to like preventing gun
Civil
violence.
rights, gun
Yeah,
violence. Yeah.
the whole gamut. And when you have an administration that is so bent on their political agenda and punishing their opponents, and then big law firms are saying, hey, we'll help you out. We don't want to lose clients. We don't want to lose government contracts. And because of that, we will pour up to $100 million is the highest figure that I've seen across the many firms that have capitulated. And it's been a total of almost $1 billion of free legal services that people have no idea is just getting poured into the federal government. It's crazy.
That is absolutely crazy, especially when you consider what a partisan hold Trump has on people like Pam Bondi, the top cop, and the Supreme Court, even having this like outsized impact on the picks that are on the court right now, just a massive imbalance. So how do you think that we better educate ourselves to try and like resist some of this authoritarianism? Is there anything we could do right now?
Yeah, it's a scary time. And honestly, I've said this before, but I think it really is about the dialogue and the conversation, right? So everybody do something, but what that looks like is going to have variance. So, for example, I'm a lawyer. I talk about the law. I love to educate people, particularly non-lawyers, on the intricacies of law and ways it affects their lives that they may not know about, that I certainly did not know about before I was a lawyer. If you're not a lawyer, You can just read, stay informed. The work you do is so important and so impactful
Just
that
start yapping, guys. That's what I tell you all the time. Get on there and yap about something that nobody else knows or you feel like isn't getting enough coverage.
and it's so true though, right? Is the ways in which you communicate about the law or any of these individuals on the internet who go on these news networks and they tell stories, particularly news stories of things that are going on right now. The more publicity we can bring to these issues and the more we can spotlight them, I think the better and more protected folks are going to be when forces are impacting their lives that they may have no idea about.
Mm, that's what I've been feeling like too. So often I'm like, what do we do? And I used to feel like I had the answer. And now I'm like, you hold the flashlight at the scary thing, even if your hands are shaking, and that's all you could do. All we could do is try to bring light to some of the stuff that's going on because people don't even know what's going on, let alone how to fight it. So right now I feel like you're right, we're in this like awareness space. Did you know that big law firms have given $1 billion in pro bono offerings to the Trump administration based on a little bit of like bullying from that administration? What does $1 billion in pro bono legal look like? What could that potentially show up as in your neighborhood? Do you happen to know what some of the priorities are or how folks might start to recognize these things or try to show up at their town council and resist?
Yeah, it's still yet to be seen. I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of deals that have been obviously cut with these various big law firms, but it's all recent. So
Yeah.
this is all
Just
really
starting.
and yeah, in the past 2 months or so, and it takes a while for the administration to have certain initiatives they wanna put money toward. What I will say, what I would expect is things related to immigration, right?
Mhm.
It's very customary in the pro bono space of big law that traditionally, firms like my former firm would go to court on behalf of individuals who were here in search of a better life, and we're here legally, and we're just looking for ways to get here legally and to get a job or a better life, and we would go to court for them for free.
Mhm.
We help people from marginalized backgrounds. We were invested in that work, and now I think you can understand the opposite is sort of happening, where the
Mhm.
administration has very different goals than that and they're occupied with making sure that access is blocked. And it's something I expect to see a lot of anti-immigration pro bono work spill out of these law firms. I expect to see maybe some degree of anti-LGBTQ plus initiatives where, again, famously, these big law firms who had touted themselves as being very progressive, right, and very aligned to the cause, and they have firm-wide web pages about how much they value diversity and how much they care about uplifting lawyers from every background. But I think you're going to see that the law firms are now very quiet about that. And DEI initiatives have been rolled back across the profession, not even in big law. And it's something where that will certainly spill over to pro bono and the ways in which we have fought, for example, for trans folks, right?
Mhm.
Last year alone, I worked on an initiative as part of Davis Polk, my former law firm, where I was helping an organization, a trans rights organization, revise their bylaws and their operating procedure and make sure that they knew how to stay authorized as a nonprofit, right? Because that has real financial implications for not only the organization and its employees, but for trans folks themselves, right? There's
Mhm.
impact here. And so I doubt we'll take on more cases like that anytime soon. I doubt that other law firms will as well. It's really sad.
It is. I can imagine just even as you're talking things like environmental protections. I know Big Law did a lot with that. Certainly, Trump's going to try to hold them back from that. It's like the cruelty is the point, and it's this I've never seen anything like it. The energy that they have for both offense and defense, like ensuring that they are attacking people while also removing the helpers that used to be on that people's team to
Yeah.
like help them fight back. It can be really quite exhausting.
And that's part of the problem. The is ultimately this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
The administration was not doing any of this. They were not big law firms to get in line with their political agenda. They were not telling them certain pro bono causes that they wanted them to support. They were not bullying lawyers into adopting certain politics. And so this is the first time we're really seeing it, at least in my lifetime, where lawyers targeted in a very intentional, offensive way. And I think it's really, really scary and something people should be talking about, which is why I decided to come forward, right? And why I about this and why I care so deeply about this. Because if we're not talking about it, it just happens and then it moves forward and we have no defense. And I think in order to have a defense, you have to start talking about these things.
Well, I'm really glad to have found you fairly recently, and I subscribe to your Substack and have read the stuff you've written so far. I think you're incredibly brave. I hope that you have protection. We need people like you out there who understand what's happening because, like, I'm good at the news, but I don't really know much about like the inner workings of like law schools, or even you wrote about something recently about how they recruit from universities. So we're not even, they're getting them like right off the bat and making that the only opportunity that there is. So tell folks where they can find more of your content. Subscribe to Ryan's Substack. I know you're putting out a lot of stuff right there. It's very easy to understand, it's plain language, and it's really important for us to stay ahead of.
Thanks, V. I appreciate the plug.
Of
You
course.
at Ryan Will Powers on Substack, which is my main platform, also on Instagram and LinkedIn. I talk about the law. I try to help non lawyers understand it better. It's something I care very much about, and I hope to see you over there.
Yeah, and we'll have you back anytime something's going on and folks need to know about it. We always have this channel we can hop on. The Dust Bunnies and the Substack are like the safest place for me to do lives right now because there's just so many bad actors and AI out there that will like clip you and make you sound crazy. And it's like we need these spaces and in-person spaces to find more safe adults and more safe people who can help us push back or at least resist authoritarianism as much as we can. So I appreciate the work you're doing, Ryan. Follow Ryan's Substack. I think that's the best place to hear from you, and then you get the email, you know that something's happening, you're ready to go.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Thank you very much, V. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I'll see you later, Ryan. Take care tonight.
Bye.
Bye.